this is my new Olympic journey. This is, you know, the journey inward is my new mountain to climb. And that's kind of really where it began.
Well, let's talk about that, because that's why we're here. You know, if I'm going to communicate with someone who's listening to this podcast or a regular listener to this podcast, I got absolutely smoked on psychedelics this weekend with you at a retreat. You led the retreat, you and your lovely wife and V, who this guy you speak of. And, you know, through the process of getting to know you, and there was a very specific reason for it. And, you know, I speak colloquially, but, you know, this was one of the most transformative experiences of my life. And I truly mean that from the bottom of my heart. You were there for the beginning of it. You were there for the end of it. But your journey into it and my journey there and how we both met there together, not dissimilar. You know, where you spend your entire life training for something, to be something, and you think that that is your foundation, that is your identity, that's who you are, you know, and then one day, not dissimilar to anybody else on this planet who wakes up at the age of 35, 40, 50, whatever your age is, and you realize that journey is coming to an end. But you don't look at it like that. You look like it, you know, that part of my life is over. Those are the ways that we kind of translate those evolutionary experiences from these things that we thought we were, how we grew up, and arriving in a place in your life, and I have arrived there several times, where you're like, you know, what the fuck just happened? Why am I here? What am I doing? I am miserable. I am lonely. I am dark. I am sad, and you can't explain it. You feel like an imposter. And you have to do something, but you don't know what that something is. So let's get into that. I want to get into your journey. I want to talk about my journey and how both of those journeys kind of managed to find each other at a hobby farm north of Toronto this last weekend.
Yes.
You're from Toronto.
Yeah.
You are an Olympic athlete. We've established that. You're an Olympic medalist. You found yourself in a position, you know, where a lot of people will say when they find themselves unhappy after a long, illustrious career, you found yourself in a position that I was in, right? Dark, miserable, sad, lonely, unsure. When did that start? Take me kind of through that journey. Tell me about Dylan Moskovich, the path you're on, and then the full stop. To saying, hey, I need to do something.
Yeah. Really, I think that sadness, that depth started creeping in really young. And it really took me until a few years after retirement to face it head on, like really face it. I was a very sensitive kid, very emotional, very in tune with my emotions, and very sensitive to people and things. And, you know, in my studies of understanding that can sometimes be a survival mechanism at a young age, feeling like if you're in a family or a situation where you feel unsafe, that sensitivity is a heightened awareness of how to create harmony or try to create harmony when you feel there's a lack of that. I believe that to be, you know, one of the contributing factors of how I moved in my world. Yeah, I grew up in a very competitive sport, in figure skating in the 90s, as a vegetarian in Canada, and a hockey culture. And so naturally I grew up with some, let's say, adversity, you know. School was tough. I had some hard times. I had some difficult interactions, and in retrospect, I could see this cage forming surrounding that sensitivity, surrounding that innocent romanticism, surrounding love, surrounding connection with people, surrounding just kindness. I felt this hardening happening to make me tough, to make me able to win, to make me able to survive this world that I so badly wanted to succeed in. And figure skating is an interesting one because it's also an art form. It's an expression. And so one of the things that I love so much about it was that I got to be this technical athlete and this performer. Moving to music, telling a story, expressing different aspects of myself. so, you know, there was this kind of duality that played out. And over time, I created a Dylan that I thought would be accepted.
Could survive.
That could survive. And survival being receiving love and approval. And being enough. And yeah, my way of getting there was very much through will and determination. I had enough talent, but it was very much internal brute force in a lot of ways. And, you know, in hindsight, what I've really learned is there's this kind of split when one has a deep desire to achieve something, and it can be fueled by love and it can be fueled by fear, and there's a cocktail, a recipe of the balance of those things. But really, whichever one is fed more kind of colors the experience and builds the character of that person. And we can give of ourselves without needing to give away ourselves. And there became a point where I started giving away myself. And that was, you know, some of my authenticity that I didn't really understand. It was too scary to hold that in the world. And so I went about trying to become the most popular version of me I could be, making friends with the kind of guys that would have bullied me. And also, you know, with women too, needing that acceptance, needing that validation off the ice, and then on the ice, you know, needing to be the best, which is not a bad thing. But
did you start figure skating because you liked it?
Loved it.
You loved it as a kid, young kid.
Yeah, I mean, I
so it was a passion. You enjoyed it.
Deep passion. I played competitive hockey, competitive baseball.
Yeah, you're a hell of an athlete growing up.
Yeah, I was very active.
He's also humble.
I try.
Humble. You know, I know you do, but you're a great athlete. I mean, figure skaters are some of the best athletes in the world. Right?
It's very demanding.
Yeah, sure.
It's definitely very demanding. I always kind of knew I was a skater. That's how I identified. It was my thing. And I think going through that bullying, going through that adversity, taught me at a very young age how to prioritize what is more important to me than what others think, which is kind of an interesting duality, given there was another part of me that was trying to please that.
Yeah, like you had to stuff down the idea that other people's opinions of you being a figure skater as a kid didn't matter, but then you also, you know, chase that thing when you're looking for other people's approval when it did matter,
right,
to you
in different ways.
So what does that change? Because that's the fascinating part to me about people like yourself that are really high achievers, great athletes. You know, you start doing this thing, you become a celebrated figure skater, but at some point it went from, hey, I love this, I enjoy this, to something that causes a tremendous amount of trauma at some point, right? Whether it's, you know, the journey along the way, how you treated it and how you looked at it. But, you know, that is, it appears to me, even just through some of our conversations, that you're no different than anybody else, that the thing you love is also the thing that you know, that really made you turn away from or towards something else because it caused a certain amount of unhappiness in your life.
Right. It's like in some ways, a toxic relationship. There's a codependency there that I loved it, but I needed something from it. I stopped being able to give and experience it. You know, the cliche of it's about the journey, not the destination.
Sure.
The destination became the thing, you know, and I only made it to my one Olympics at 29, which is relatively on the older side for a figure skater. So you think about how many years my mom told me when I was 5, she asked me if I wanted to go to the Olympics. I said, no, I want to win the Olympics at 5. So you think 24 years of obsessing over this thing, right. You create this whole idea, you know, this utopia, and
as an expectation.
And getting there was, the experience of it was everything I dreamed of. Afterwards is what really, you know, smoked me. That promised land is a ghost town.
Explain that. What do you mean by that?
It's
because I understand what you mean by that, but you know, you and I'll just give some context too before I let you finish answering the question I just asked you. Sorry,
I'll hold on to
that's
it.
how I am.
I'll hold on to it.
Thanks. Because I have this mini obsession now with the idea that, you know, the destination is really the journey for me, but was never how I was taught, you know, life should go. Is that, you know, you have to do these things to accomplish this to get to here, and then you'll be happy. But explain that to me from your perspective.
Yeah, I mean, it's this kind of label, hat, category thing that we have in our society where we get placed in a place, and therefore that's how people relate to us and how we relate to ourselves. And this idea of being an Olympian, this idea of being an Olympic medalist, meant that for the rest of my life, because I was that, everything would just be that much better. And I'm sure there was something I picked up along the way from the energy created around it, but also the idea I created within myself, that I would just be happy for the rest of my life because I achieved that. Everything would just make sense, you know? And there wasn't, you know, a lot of athletes on the other side of that, there's not a lot of foresight. I know years ago they did this study, and they interviewed a lot of athletes and asked, if you were to be guaranteed that you would win an Olympic gold medal but you would die shortly after, would you do it? And a lot of them said yes.
Wow.
And that saddens me. Did
it sadden you then? Would it sadden you then?
No, because it's like a glorified, heroic kind of thing, you know? But on the other side, there's so much more life than a competition based on a set of rules that someone made up. You know, we're playing a game. It's all an idea. It's not objective reality. It's subjective. It's collective subjective reality. It's something that we all, okay, this is important because someone said so. We're going to make this thing really important. We all agree. Okay, we agree this is important. This is important. Let's go make this important thing even bigger, you know? Exciting, incredible. What an opportunity. What an experience. Like that journey helped me meet myself in a way that most people will never understand until maybe like later in their life. That intensified, magnified impact of meeting myself in challenging moments, incredible. But the destination becoming the focal point, you get there and then it's over, and then what?
Got to do it again.
Right. It's an addiction. Right. So I finished my Olympics. I won my medal.
2014 Sochi.
2014 Sochi. Won a medal in the team event, first ever team event. Came fifth in the pair event. Did great. Went to Worlds, and we came fourth by a couple points. Second year in a row we missed a world medal. And then my partner at the time split with me, and kind of, you know, my whole world crumbled. And I decided I wasn't done. So I got a new partner, and I made the kiss of death for myself. I made this decision that I would stick around to go to one more games, and it would be worthwhile if I got a world medal.
Worthwhile.
Because I was 29 at the time. I had a partner who was a lawyer, and there was this external kind of like pressure and idea of what life was supposed to be, and I was still, you know, I was getting into my 30s. I was still figure skating, and, you know, all of these kind of things were now starting to play a role in the way in which I was adding weight. I was dumping rocks into my backpack that I was carrying around, you know, and so it started stealing my joy. It started stealing my love. My next partner moved from Russia to skate with me, and that partnership was beautiful and also very challenging. And I started behaving in a way that was increasingly less connected to my heart, less connected to my patience, to my perspective. I was frustrated. I was short-tempered. I was angry. I was angry. You know, there were aspects of my career where I felt there were some unfair things that had happened, and I made myself a victim. And I allowed that to push me into a way of being that was not in alignment with my truth, my higher self, you know. And an important part of my journey nonetheless. But we were doing well. We were medaling at nationals. We came 6th at Worlds the year before the Olympics, helped Canada earn 3 spots 3 weeks before nationals. A 200-pound mirror fell on my face. in a Pilates studio, and knocked me out and easily could have killed me. The circumstances that happened that I survived is kind of miraculous. And the glass shattered all over me, and there were pieces of glass lying on my neck, on my body, and the impact alone, never mind the glass, the pieces of glass lying all over me, could have taken me out. Concussed, competed at nationals 3 weeks later, tried to make the Olympic team. I had stuck around just for this. My partner got her Canadian immigration status, her citizenship status, maybe 2 weeks before that, by the immigration minister personally, so we could make the Olympic team. 2 days training, went to nationals, came fourth, missed the Olympic team by a spot, and that was the end of my career.
Wow.
Yeah. So I had this really powerful duality of an experience within my sport. I experienced the glory, and I experienced the massive heartbreak and death of a dream, So I left the sport with that taste, and I ran in the other direction.